Hi, my name's Phil. I like to come out politics. Oh my goodness, this is going to set the cat amongst the pigeons. So we know that Trump has been talking about reconstructing Gaza as some sort of seedy Las Vegas on the Mediterranean type affair all year. Trump certainly has dollar signs in his eyes at the prospect, not really the consideration of the Palestinians. But of course, Gaza does need reconstructing. It's been flattened, and the US is obviously going to play a role in organising it. But Trump's golf buddy, and for some reason senior envoy in the region, Steve Witkoff, just dropped a massive clanger. What if Trump's people had a plan to reconstruct Gaza 2 years ago, before Israel laid waste to the place? What if you had a plan to reconstruct it back when the cities had buildings in an upright position? Now imagine you let slip to the world that you had this reconstruction plan before there was a need for reconstruction. That seems to be exactly what Wickoff has done, and you should see the reaction from Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. Okay, so very much a change to my intended schedule, but this is quite remarkable. In fact, it's shocking. Steve Witkoff is Trump's Middle Eastern envoy. He has absolutely no experience or skills for the role. He's a property developer and a keen amateur golfer. So basically, he got to be mates with Trump. It's on this basis that Trump decided he was the very person to navigate one of the most politically sensitive and volatile parts of the world. Donald Trump, in case you haven't noticed, doesn't hire people who are competent for the job. He mistrusts competence and expertise. He invites his friends. Then we have Jared Kushner, the closest thing the Trump inner circle have to some brains. Trump's son-in-law and a senior advisor to the president during both of his terms. They were both answering questions about the reconstruction of Gaza, being asked about the funding and the logistics. And this is key. I've said before, there hasn't been much mainstream discussion about this. Gaza's a city which basically needs designing and building from scratch because it's just not there anymore. It's all very well saying Palestinians have been able to return, but return to what? A city doesn't have natural resources to allow people to manage their own survival. You need supplies of food bringing in, clothing, energy. You need complex sanitation systems. So it's really important to ask how this is going to be done and when. So Steve Witkoff kicks off by talking about the money needed being somewhere in the region of $50 billion. He says he thinks the money will be the easy part of it. He's asked about that and suggests Europe will stump up for it. Note the typical Trumpian line here. He expects American businesses to profit from the reconstruction and to decide how that reconstruction will be managed, but other countries will pay for it. Not Israel, of course.
Part of the plan is the reconstruction, the building, rebuilding of Gaza. Mm-hmm. And you're builders. You've been in real estate. As you said, it's extremely complex. Tell us more about the plan and how much it's going to cost, where's the money going to come from, and who's going to award the contracts? 3 questions.
I think it's going to cost a lot of money.
What's a lot of money?
The estimates are in the $50 billion range. It might be a little bit less. It might be a little bit more. I happen to think that that's not a lot of money in that region. You have governments that are going to jump on in, and
so the Middle East countries are going to provide the money.
What you'll see European participation and so forth. I think the beginning of this plan is how to get it going.
But as Wickoff says, the planning is what's difficult. I absolutely concur with that. He talks about the need for a master plan. But don't you worry your pretty little heads about it, because my friend Jared Kushner's group has been working on such a master plan for a couple of years. Well, look at Kushner's reaction when he says this.
And that's what me and Jared work on all the time. The money raising, we think, is the easy part. We think that happens relatively quickly. But it's the master plan, and we're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
So there are plans already.
Yeah. We have plans already. We have a master plan already. And by the way, and Jared's been pushing this, and we're working together on it. And I think if the world saw the progress so far, they'd be pretty impressed.
I mean, that is some proper rubbernecking right there, isn't it? Why that reaction from Kushner about this? Because why would he have been working on a reconstruction plan, a master plan, not just a master plan for Gaza 2 years ago, when Gaza wasn't in need of reconstruction at the time? It was about to be. It was about to be flattened over the next 2 years, but at that time it hadn't been. Now, even if you're talking about exactly 2 years ago, so after the Hamas attacks, but just at the point of the siege of Gaza, that was beginning, there would have been hopes for a mostly peaceful resolution without, with the hostages returned and without a major military escalation, without having to displace millions of innocent people and bomb their homes into rubble. Why would Trump's associates have at that time been working on a plan for a master plan for the reconstruction of Gaza unless they had inside knowledge that no matter what happens, the Israeli government's determined to flatten the place? And if that's not enough, remember, we also know that the ceasefire deal, which unlocks the release of the hostages very recently, was exactly the same ceasefire deal which Biden brokered a year ago and Hamas agreed to. Reports suggest that Netanyahu turned it down. We know for a fact that Netanyahu turned it down. But the reports suggest he turned it down because he wanted to give Trump the credit for ending the war. Why would he do that unless there's some discussion between the two going on? And even if that is the case, why did it take well over half a year after Trump's inauguration to slowly move towards agreeing that ceasefire deal that had been on the table for a year? Well, let us say that Netanyahu was in cahoots with Trump going back at least 2 years, that there was behind closed doors talks of flattening Gaza no matter how Hamas responded to negotiations, and that this would give the US the opportunity to lead a reconstruction of the territory in their image. Now, would this be a conspiracy theory or just an actual conspiracy? We know for a fact that the ceasefire deal agreed to recently was exactly the one presented last year and where only Israel refused to agree to it. That is a fact. I don't know how certain it is a fact that Netanyahu held off to give Trump the credit. The problem with reporting around these issues is there's quite a lot of disinformation there. It's very difficult to know the actual facts. But for whatever reason, it was too soon at the time for Netanyahu to agree, but not now. And now this suggestion from Witkoff that Kushner has been working on a reconstruction master plan for Gaza since before there was a need for reconstruction. I mean, it's not a good look. Shall we at least put it that way? And Kushner's reaction is very much one of incredulity. That he was surprised. He was surprised that his colleague had let the cat out the bag there. That is not what they agreed to talk about before this interview. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams of behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.